Organizations of life.
Yeah, Cell City one.
What's your favorite subject as a kid?
All right, so
Science.
we've talked about the organelles that we need to. We've talked about what they do. We looked at them in illustrations of the cell. So what we're going to be doing today is two things. We're going to just use some analogies to help us better understand what these organelles do. And then we're going to look at some actual electron microscope images showing the various organelles and what they really look like in the cell. So what we have here is this Cell City drawing. And in this drawing, each of the numbered items represents a cell organelle. So we're comparing like how these cell organelles function within the cell to how different parts of the city would work. So we're going to try and identify what we're thinking of here. So let's start with number one. You're going to have to fill these in. So this fence around the perimeter of the city that protects the city, which cell organelle would you say that is similar to it, that is an analogy for? Charlie?
Cell wall.
Yeah, that's the cell wall. So please write that in. Right next to the number one. I don't have it on mine, but just write in that it's the cell wall. Good. It's mainly for protection.
Is this a plant or an animal?
This is a plant cell that we're looking at. Good question. All right, how about number two then? This guard station. Zach, what do you think that is?
Cell membrane.
Yeah, that's the cell membrane, which is different from the cell wall because it has an active role. The cell membrane is what determines which substances can enter or leave the cell. And that's like what this guard is. All right, if we continue on, now we get inside of the city. Number three is this construction site. This construction site is sort of making all of the other buildings within the cell and creating those sites. Which organelle do you think that may be similar to? Karina? Not quite. We'll get to chloroplast eventually, but that's not the chloroplast. Dan? No? Charlie? Yeah, that's the ribosomes. Because remember, ribosomes make protein, which basically makes up much of the cell is made of these proteins.
Number three?
Yep, three is the ribosome.
Does it matter how you spell it? Yes.
Yeah, she spelled
It's
correctly.
right up on the next. It's right there. We're going down.
All right,
Yeah.
number four. This is a transport company. Now, when I say transport, you should think of two things, two organelles. Let me tell you, this one is just transporting things within the city. Only within the city. Lonnie? Yeah, that's the ER. 4 is the ER. The tubes that transport things within the cell. Now, what if I said it transported things out of this city? What organelle would I be referring to then? Charmin? No? Vasya? Yeah, the Golgi bodies. Okay, but this was within the city. All right, number 5 here. This power plant in the city that gives the city the energy it needs. Jaden?
The nucleus.
No, nucleus doesn't make energy. It doesn't release energy. What releases energy? Marley? Yes, the mitochondria. 5 is the mitochondria. Six is a greenhouse where they're growing all the food for this city. Madison? That's the chloroplast. Good. Chloroplast makes food for the plant cell. Number 7 is a little bit trickier. A waste disposal plant. This is a part of this is getting rid of things that are no longer needed in the city. So which cell organelle was kind of similar to that? Dan?
The central vacuolar.
No, because that's more of a storage area. Line? Lysosome, yes. The lysosome, which is those little bubbles that contain enzymes to break things down.
Doesn't say.
You know, for example, when a cell organelle is no longer working, the lysosome will break it down and sort of recycle the parts it's made of.
How do you spell it?
Lysosome. How about number 8? The government building. Logan?
Nucleolus?
Yeah, that's the nucleus. It's the control center. It's what sort of controls and determines what happens in this city. And finally, number 9, these tanks storing food and water. Gianna? Those are the vacuoles, correct. Vacuoles, which are areas for storage. So just like these different buildings within a city have a job to do to help the city function, cell organelles are similar. They're within a cell and they help the cell to function. Each of them has a certain job to do. I have some more pictures here of these. Yours may look a little different. Yeah, this one is like last on your picture. But this cookbook has the instructions on how to make something, how to make a recipe. Which organelle do you think that may be similar to? Logan?
Ribosomes?
Not quite, because the ribosomes actually do the making. If this were like a stove, maybe. But this actually doesn't make the parts of the cell, but it has the instructions about how to make them. What would that be? Kayla? No. Jaden?
Mitochondria?
No, it's not about energy. Madison?
Nucleus?
What?
Nucleus?
Did you say nucleus? Yeah, nucleus, or maybe chromosomes would work as well. Because that's where the information is stored about how to make the cell. The instructions. This is a fish market. It says eat fish for protein. What is that referring to? Rachel?
The ribosomes?
Yeah, the ribosomes, which make protein for the cell. How about this? What that represents, Danny? No, it's the doorway here. Doorway line.
Cell wall?
Does a cell wall determine what goes in and out?
Membrane.
Yes, correct. Cell membrane. It's the cell membrane. So the chef, think about what a chef does. Let's figure this one out, Zach. Yes, this is the chloroplast. Because what does a chef do?
It makes the food.
Makes food. Goes just like the chloroplast makes food for the plant cell. Chloroplast. What is that?
A windmill.
Yeah, windmill, wind turbine. You ever seen those?
Yeah.
You ever like drive south, like Waterville and stuff? You can see them up on the ridge. What are those for? Karina? They make energy, correct. So which organelle is this? Yes, this is the mitochondria. You ever get up close to one?
Yes.
I never really have, but one time I was driving down the thruway going to Albany, and coming the other way was a big tractor trailer, and on the bed was a huge tractor trailer, and was just a single blade, took up the whole length of this truck. So those blades are huge. You don't really realize when you see them from far away, they're really big. Not too far off, probably 3/4. All right, so yeah, those are the mitochondria. How about this? Garbage truck. Gets rid of waste. Charlie? What is it?
Golgi body?
No? Because the garbage truck doesn't transport to massive.
Lysosome.
Yes, lysosome. Lysosome. It's kind of a strange picture. I'm not sure why these bears are floating in floats, but they are.
You picked it.
Yeah.
So, what we're referring to in this diagram is the water that these bears are floating in. Grace? Cytoplasm, yes, cytoplasm. What's up? So that's cytoplasm. All right, how about these big oil tanks? Jaden?
Those are the vacuums.
Yep, those are vacuoles, good. How about the river carrying these boats?
I got this.
Caitlin?
Golgi body?
Maybe. Maybe Golgi bodies. I'm thinking maybe something might be a little bit better. But you're not. That's pretty close, because this also is transport things. Jaden?
The ER?
Yeah, that, I would say ER maybe.
There was one more.
Yeah, computer.
Oh, the computer would be what? I don't have it on my slide.
Golgi body.
No? Nucleus. That'd be the nucleus.
Oh. Wait, yeah,
What? Yeah, it's okay.
how would that be nucleus?
Because like the computer controls things. All right, a couple more and then we'll be set. How about the owner's manual? Tells you how to operate something.
Are these only plant cells?
No, this could be either. Marley? Yeah, that'd be the nucleus.
Wait, we use nucleus.
I know. It's okay. How about this train, Kayla?
The ER?
Yep, transport, ER. How about the postman? Postman. Grace? Yeah, Golgi bodies. Deliver things to other places. How about the drawer in like your dresser or cabinet? What would the drawer be like? Right?
Vacuums?
Yeah. Vacuoles, they store things. How about this picture of Mr. Arcuri as a bouncer?
Oh, I know.
That looks just like
I
a.
don't know. 10?
Sound like you.
Not quite.
Cell membrane.
Cell membrane, because he says who can get into the club and not, or
Each
can't.
said no right in the same word.
So he's like the cell
How do you
membrane.
spell the end of the like
B-R-A-N-E.
B-R-A-N-E?
Yes.
Okay.
How about this battery?
God, this is.
Billy? Yeah, mitochondria, good.
Are they like do this on the test? Like,
No.
No, that'd be a good test. Can you do
that'd
it?
be easy.
All right, well, it sounds like you guys have a pretty good handle on
Wait, what was that?
cell organelles. That was the mitochondria.
Yeah. This would be wicked hard.
All right, we just have a couple last things to do. First, we call this the organization of life. And that if you look at a complex living thing like a person, we say that there are different layers, different levels of organization. One of the simplest is cells. So we know that our bodies, for example, are made of cells. Trillions of cells make up our body. A cell is the basic unit of life, the simplest sort of building block of living things. So like as an example, we have in our body billions of individual muscle cells. You know, a muscle cell is one individual cell. This is one single muscle cell. It's got a nucleus. And, you know, muscle cells have a certain job to do. Basically, what muscle cells do is they shorten. When they get a signal, muscle cells shorten.
They start off big.
They start relaxed, and then when they get a signal, they contract. They get smaller. That's basically how muscles do. All right. Well, these muscle cells, a single muscle cell is tiny. On its own, can't really do very much. But groups of cells work together. And when they do work together, they form what we call a tissue. Okay? A group of cells working together forms a tissue. And in our bodies, we have 3 different types of muscle tissue. Do you guys learn about them in health?
Yes.
You know what they are?
Skin.
No.
Somebody said skin.
Skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and smooth muscles. Yes. Those are the types of muscle tissue. And again, those tissues are made of a bunch of muscle cells. All right? And then if we take a bunch of different types of tissue and they work together to do a certain job, they form an organ. For example, muscle tissue in our heart, along with nervous tissue, forms an organ, like our heart. It's made of several types of tissue. It has a job to do. These tissues are working together to do a job, just to pump blood throughout the body. And then, when you have a bunch of organs working together to do a job, we call that a system, an organ system. For example, our heart, working with our arteries and our veins and our capillaries, forms the cardiovascular system. It has a job to do. Its job is to move blood around our body. Cardiovascular system. And then finally, in complex organisms, we have a bunch of different organ systems all working together, like our excretory system and respiratory and cardiovascular and nervous and muscular system. All those working together form one complete living organism, one living thing. That's what an organism is, one living thing, such as a human. It's a human, an entire living thing.
Human.
Oh, I'll go tell her now.
Picture just right here.
All right, so that's what we call the organization of life. What you will have to know mainly is the proper order that these pieces go in. So the simplest level of organization in living things is the cell, and the most complex is the organism. So you should know how things go: cell, tissue, organ system, organism. Logan?
I just have a random question. How long did it take you making all those slides?
A long time.
Are they the same every year?
We change them from year to year. I mean, they're mostly the same, but we add stuff or get rid of stuff, reorganize things sometimes.
What period do you usually post to YouTube?
It depends. It varies from day to day. All right, so our last thing to talk about is cell organelles. Now, when we looked at our diagrams and our drawings, things look nice and neat. You know, each organelle is a different color. Everything's very clear and separate from each other. But in reality, things don't look so clear when you actually look at a cell. We sort of simplify it so that we can understand it a little better. So what I'm going to show you right now are some actual electron microscope images of a few different cell organelles, so you can see what they actually look like. And you'll see they resemble the things I told you about, but they're not perfect. All right, so if we look here, this one's pretty easy to identify. This organelle that we're looking at here. Does anyone want to take a guess at what organelle that is? Jaden?
Mitochondria?
Yeah, that's the mitochondria. How did you recognize it?
Because I saw the little things and shaped like a jelly.
Yeah, shaped like a jelly bean with those lines inside of it. That's the mitochondria. Some cells in our body have many mitochondria. Muscle cells, for example. They have a lot of mitochondria because, why do you think they have a lot of mitochondria? Tim?
They do like the heavy lifting. They do
Yeah,
like
they need a lot of energy to complete their task. Other cells have not as many mitochondria. And so what does the mitochondria do? Karina?
It makes energy.
Yes, it releases energy for the cell. And for these, sort of sometimes we give an estimated size. In this one, we're just going to say about 5 micrometers. You can see in this field of view is about 5 micrometers, and the mitochondria basically takes up all of that
That's
space.
it.
So mitochondria, they're pretty small. Now this next organelle is a little bit more difficult. These little strips here, these little individual things, you know what they are, Marley? What's that? No, ribosomes are sort of round. These are sort of longer. Lonnie?
Chromosomes?
Yeah, these are chromosomes. These are chromosomes.
I thought they were X's.
Sometimes they're X's, sometimes they're half of an X. It depends when the picture was taken.
I see one that looks like that.
Yeah, it might just be two sort of crossed over each other. Caitlin?
What is the estimated size for the...
Oh, 5 micrometers.
Oh.
What do chromosomes do? If you remember back.
Oh.
Fine?
They contain info?
They contain information. They contain, what else?
Genes.
Our genes, our DNA. And if you remember when we talked about this, we said that half of your chromosomes come from your mother and half come from your father. It's our genetic information. It tells sort of all about us. Those chromosomes contain the information that makes us who we are. They're pretty small. You know, the length of one might be about 5 micrometers or so. The width is less than 1 probably.
Is this to do the fancy test?
Yeah, you. What?
This is 15 micrometers.
It's giving you the whole field of view, but I'm saying so one individual chromosome would maybe be about 5 or so.
What about the mitochondria?
Yeah, look, about 5 because it goes the whole way. Tim. Go ahead. All right. Now this whole organelle we have a name for. The whole thing. So this is within a cell. What is this whole thing? Logan?
Nucleus?
It's the nucleus. But that's not what we're going to label. We're going to label some parts of the nucleus. So if you remember back, inside of the nucleus, there's this sort of dark area. It's like a smaller nucleus, Rachel?
Nucleolus.
That's the nucleolus, correct. Does anyone remember what it does? The nucleolus? Charmy? Jaden?
That's like the part that is the living part of the cell, like the...
No, the other parts are living as well. Tim?
It's like the message center. It says
Not-
what messages.
I mean, the nucleus as a whole is, but the nucleolus, Lonnie, it makes ribosomes. It makes those other organelles called ribosomes. All right, so what is number 2 pointing to? This thing right here. Okay? Yeah, but the outside of the nucleus has a name. Kayla? It's a nuclear membrane. And it basically determines what goes into and out of the nucleus. Some things are stuck inside of the nucleus, like the chromosomes, they can't get out. They're stuck in there. But other things can get out, like ribosomes and RNA. Ribonucleic acid.
English, please.
That's what it stands for, RNA. right? Ribonucleic acid. And there's mRNA, there's rRNA. There's
What
different.
do they do?
They're basically, if you think about the chromosome is like a cookbook. And it has the recipe about how to build different proteins. But it's stuck inside of the nucleus. Where are the ribosomes? Are they inside the nucleus? No, they're outside the nucleus. So somehow the recipe to make a protein has to get from inside the nucleus out to the ribosomes. RNA brings that message up. Jaden?
Estimate says to be
Yeah, I'd say about
2.
3 maybe.
3.
Yeah, I mean, if this is 10 across, I mean, that's talking about the whole nuclear membrane from one side to the other. What type of cell would you say this top diagram is? Which type of cell? Billy? Well, first, what type of cell is this, do you think? Plant or animal cell? It is a plant. It's got this thick layer. It's sort of squarish shape. What layer is this whole thing around the outside of the plant cell? Karina?
The cell wall.
Yeah, that is the cell wall. Its job is to support and protect the plant cell. Size, if we're looking the whole of the cell, about 90 micrometers from one side to the other. This one, all these tubes sort of together. What would that organelle be, Jaden?
ER.
Yeah, that's the ER. Its job is to do what?
To transport like proteins and stuff.
Transport things. And the size from one side to the other is about 35 micrometers. All right, last one.
What was the estimated size?
One of my favorites, 35 micrometers.
What was that? Oh, no.
I think everyone should know this. I said it a million times back when we were identifying. Anybody, any new participants that haven't answered know what this is? Hold on. All these people have already answered. Anyone else? You answered a whole bunch. All right, Grace? Yeah, how'd you recognize them?
Because it looks like pancakes.
Stack of pancakes, some drops of syrup.
It looks like what I made.
Their job to package up things to leave the cell, and their size, about 10 micrometers. So that's what the organelles actually look like. So not quite as neat and organized as we drew them in our drawings, but still similar enough that you can identify them.